So today our topic is I'm under contract, help, what do I do next? So we're going to be covering the items and the responsibilities that we have and the process of what happens to get things from contract to close. Okay. What is your biggest, before we get started, what's your biggest concern about once I get something under contract?
Will my contract to close person answer my text message? That's my biggest concern.
That is a good problem to have, right, Jen? And they will. Amy, welcome.
Yeah, she was good on the first one. So if she's my contact to close going forward, I'm good.
Awesome. Okay. And what he's talking about is leverage, and we'll mention that at the end. How about for you, Lori? What concerns do you have?
I guess what my next steps are. I mean, I really don't know yet because I haven't gone through it yet, but
okay.
Just what to do next and making sure my client is informed of what everything that needs to be done and making sure I'm informing them of what needs to be done. So.
Okay. Great. Amy, can I see you, please? Your beautiful face. What is your major?
How are you doing? Hold on one second.
How are you?
I'm good. Hold on one second. Okay.
There you are. And what is your major concern with once you're under contract?
Once I'm under contract, I guess due diligence, just getting to closing.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's start from day one. Binding contract. Somebody give me an idea of what binding contract means and who binds it.
It means that it means that it's binded. It's what's the word? What's the other word for that?
The seller's agent binds the contract, or the listing agent.
Do they?
I mean, they did on the one I did.
Who binds the contract?
Oh, the seller's agent, the seller. Well, everybody's in an agreement.
Okay. Any other ideas? And I thank you guys for speaking up, and I want to encourage that. This is the one time that there is a right or a wrong answer to this. There is, and everybody gets it wrong.
So the last person to agree to, the last person to accept like the offer.
You're so close, Lori. You're so
okay. Close. I don't think I'm getting it out right.
Okay. So tell me what you think you mean.
Like the last person to like accept, like say if there was like a counter offer and then the buyer's like accepting that offer from the seller, then that's when it becomes that.
You're so close.
Okay.
So what about the last person to propose it? Because it has to be accepted from the other side.
Proposed meaning?
Like I send over the offer, you accept, I bind.
Yes. Yes. So it's the last person to receive the documents with all of the signatures in place.
Right.
That's the person who legally is supposed to bind the contract. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's important for you all to know who should be binding. Same thing with any documents from then on that need to be like an amendment to address concerns that needs to be confirmed, or any changes of deadlines and it needs to be confirmed. It's whoever receives it back after everybody signed it. That's the person that initiates it, binds it. Make sense? Awesome. Okay, now y'all are going to want a piece of paper and pen, something to write with, or if you're going to pull up notes on the side so you can be taking notes, because there's a lot of stuff that we're responsible for between contract and close. Okay, so let's focus first on the buyer side, and then we'll do the listing side. So you have a buyer, they're under contract, you've gotten the binding, someone has bound the agreement and it was the correct person. Okay. The first thing that you need to do is what? Any ideas?
Inspection.
We need to get that inspection ordered ASAP, especially if you've got a very short due diligence period. You bet. What else needs to be done?
I can flip back in my pages when we had this conversation if I need to. I got notes.
It's okay. It's good for us to know this though, right? I mean, we've got, the more that we practice this and walk through it, the easier it's going to be for us so that we don't miss something, right?
Yeah,
So
I like having a checklist.
Right. So we need to get the inspection ordered. The full contract has to be sent to the attorney and to the lawyer. I'm sorry, to the lender and the lawyer. Attorney and the lawyer are the same thing. Hello. They need that ASAP, especially the lender, so they could get started on their process. You need the earnest money ASAP, whatever's in the contract. And I want to make sure that without sounding like a broken record, and I don't want to be on my soapbox all day long, but I'm going to be on my soapbox a lot today. Okay. Protecting earnest money is critical. That is your job as a buyer's agent. So whatever the contract says, it needs to be followed. And you need to reiterate that to your client, that money has to be into our office by the time that you said, and I always tell them earlier than that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. The earnest money, they hand you a check or they're going to drop it off at the office. Those are two options. Another option, they could FedEx it, which I wouldn't have them just put it in a snail mail, have them FedEx it to the office if they're going to mail it. Or a new option that we have at our office is they can do an ACH. And that acronym, I should know what that means and I can never remember. But basically it comes from your account, not from the bank, I believe. And but it's not considered a wire. It's like a transfer of funds, almost like a Venmo, in my opinion. And if they need to do that, because a lot of people don't have personal checks. Okay. And they can't get to the bank, especially with COVID going on, they can't get to the bank to do a cashier's check. So some people can do an ACH. All right.
Means automated clearinghouse.
Thank you. Automated clearinghouse. That's why I can't remember it, because it makes no sense to me.
Well, it's like Publishers Clearinghouse. Everybody wins.
Yeah, but the financial piece of that's beyond me, right? So all I know is this: it comes from their account, but it's not considered a bank wire. It's coming directly from their clearinghouse, I guess. So that's an option. And Melissa Kohler, our MCA, would walk you through that process. She emailed it to us earlier in the year. I tagged it in my inbox. I haven't used it yet, but we have that option. Okay. So the check comes to you. What do you do with it? First of all, you have to make a copy of it and send a copy to the other agent. As well as the lender and the attorney. You need to upload it into your command. You also need to fill out an envelope that is on the desk above our mailboxes. And you're going to fill out your buyer's name, your name, the address, and whether this is to be held or to be deposited. And the only reason that it would be held is if you were going to go out of town and you thought you were going to be under contract, but it was a really tight, and your client gave you the earnest check in advance, but you weren't under contract yet. That's the only reason I could think of to hold it instead of deposit it. Your client needs to know once they turn in that money, it's going to be deposited. You put the check in the envelope, and then you're going to put it in that black Earnest Money mailbox that is on the wall. So when you're standing in front of the mailboxes, it's on the wall on the right-hand side. Okay. Now, if your client decides that they're going to swing by the office, they can either drop it off at the front desk, Or if the office is closed, it's okay. They can deposit it after hours. There is a locked mailbox at the back of the building. It's at the top of the ramp. So as you're looking at the building on the back side, it's on the left-hand side up at the top of the ramp by the door, and it's locked, so it's secure. Please make sure that they put it in an envelope with your name and the address of the property.
It's by the door that you use for after hours entrance, right?
That is one of the after hours
Yeah.
entrances. Yes, there's one
Okay.
on the right and one on the left.
Okay, didn't know there were two.
There are, and it's definitely the one on the left at the top of the ramp. There's only one ramp, so you'll know which one it is, okay?
Yep.
All right, so that gives you the options for getting that money in time. Now, let's say you have a 3-day earnest money due in the office, and it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so it's due in on Sunday. As long as your client has it to the office by Sunday, it will be processed first thing Monday, and it's okay. Okay, but you still need to get it in as the contract states, okay?
So weekends do matter in that, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Unless it's written in the contract that weekends and holidays are not included, those days count.
okay, that's what's confusing is sometimes those days don't count, sometimes those days do count.
They always count unless it says on the contract, specifically in the special steps, that it's only business days, Monday through Friday. Okay,
I have a question
Yes, thank you.
about a backup, about a backup contract. If you have a backup contract, do you still have to do exactly what you would do if it was the first contract?
that's a
Would
valid
the-
question. So if you've written a backup offer and you've used a backup offer form, an exhibit along with your contract, and everybody signs it like a regular contract and it is binding,
Mhm.
earnest money is due to the office when it is bound. Unless you write in a special step that the earnest money will be due when your buyer becomes primary.
Okay.
You have to
Well,
write
that's-
that in, otherwise that money will be sitting there waiting.
Oh, okay. So, so I just did this on Friday and it was binding day before yesterday and it has 3 days. So, I probably need to let you go and take care of that right now.
Why don't you text them right now? You need to stay on the line. You need to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Text them and let them know you've got to get an earnest check. And how many days was it on your contract?
Three
Three.
days after binding, but yeah, so he's gonna do ACH. He's gonna wire it, but but he's got it. I'll call him right now and let him know he needs to do that because I didn't put that in the steps.
You'll need to get with Melissa on the process for that. I think you have to register him and then he can send it over. And I know Melissa's in a call. She's on I think she's on an ALC retreat call today. So let me give you her number and you can text her. And if she doesn't reach out to you, then that's why.
Okay. I think I have her number right here.
You have her cell phone number?
I don't have her cell phone, but I have the. Hold on 1 second.
Here's her cell phone number. You all should have this number.
Okay.
678-488-9570.
9570.
Yes.
Okay. And it's Melissa.
Melissa Kohler. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Earnest money, we do not screw around with.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll give her a call right now and I'll call
And so here is the next step. So we've talked about earnest money. Any other questions about earnest money? All right. Next. You got the inspection ordered. And you've got the contract in, you've got the earnest money in. Within 72 hours of your binding contract, you need to go into command and you need to create your commissions. And in that commissions, you are going to add the FMLS fees of 0.0012%. And if you're coaching, you're adding my fees, and we will walk through that your very first time so that you know what you're doing, or the first couple times so that you know what you're doing, unless you're using contract to close and they do that for you. Okay. And that needs to be submitted to the office along with your command with all of your documents in it. And you submit that to your MCA. So everything needs to be uploaded into your command, and then you hit the submit to the MCA button. The way to do that commissions tab is, and I don't have time to go over it here, we do have a class called Command Your Commissions, and you should be watching that so that you can walk through and see how to fill in that form, because you have to actually create a offer first that you accept, and then once you've done that, then the commission tab opens up, and so it's a little tricky. Okay, so you've got to get that in. Now, your inspections, it's not just a general inspection. The average inspection time for due diligence is 7 to 10 days, right? Sometimes it gets longer than that, but typically it's 7 to 10 days. So it's critical, in my opinion, that you get your inspection ordered as quickly as possible. I have dealt with a couple of people who did a 7-day due diligence and their inspection was on the 6th day. So they didn't even give us the amendment to address concerns until the morning of the 7th day. How are we supposed to communicate and negotiate when we have less than a day? It just isn't fair to all parties, really. And then it becomes, and nobody wants to extend due diligence if they don't have to. Okay, so your inspections need to be done, and that includes your general inspection and any specific inspections that need to be done. You need to complete an amendment to address concerns where you're specifically asking for the items that you want repaired. And your job is to help your client see the difference between honey-do lists and safety items or red flag items or very expensive items. That's what we're focusing on, not the honey-do. Okay. You present that to the listing agent. You're negotiating with the listing agent, and then you come to an agreement. And once you have, everybody signs off on that. That has to happen. And you need a signed contract on that amendment to address concerns before midnight on your deadline day. So let's say that today is, what is today? Today's the 8th, right? No, today's the 9th. I lost today. Today's the 9th, and we have a 7-day due diligence. When is due diligence over? Let's say I just got it and I just bound it. Today, 7-day due diligence.
Next Thursday morning at midnight. Wednesday night at midnight.
Anybody got any different thoughts?
Wait a minute.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to
yeah.
second guess yourself, Jim. Today
Well,
today
I have
is
problems with
Wednesday.
days. I'm looking at a calendar and like, okay, well, today's Wednesday, 7 days from today is Wednesday.
No, but it'll be Tuesday night at midnight.
Yeah, I think she's actually right. That was what I was rethinking.
You were right the first time, Jim.
All right. Well, I'm usually right the first time, but
So
who
the
knew?
way that you do, today's the 9th, right? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So on the 16th at midnight. Okay. And it needs to be negotiated by then. If not, what needs to happen?
Ask for an extension on due diligence,
That's one option.
or I
Let's
guess,
say you've got an amendment to address concerns out there, and the listing agent has verbally said that this is what they're going to do, but nothing has been signed. And suddenly they go ghosting and you can't get a hold of them. What do you do? Any ideas?
abort.
Yep. You're going to do a unilateral termination. And your client's going to freak out a little bit because they're going to be like, what? We're terminating? And you will tell them, my job is to protect your earnest money. And since we don't have any contract signed, if I don't have it signed back from the other side, you are in jeopardy of losing your earnest money if we walk. So I'm going to terminate. And that does not mean that we can't resuscitate this tomorrow, but my job is to protect. And then when I send it signed over to the listing agent, I will say, didn't get the signed documents in time. We can get this resolved tomorrow. So I'm letting them know we still want to move forward, but they understand I'm protecting my client's earnest money.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want you to understand how important this is. Last year, right around this time, I had a deal. I was the listing agent. In our counter offer, we reduced due diligence from 10 days to 7 days. They signed off on it. All was good. Week went by and never heard boo after the inspection. Nothing. It's not my job to touch base with them and ask, right? Because I'm not the buyer's agent. I'm the listing agent. I'm thinking, oh, everything's good because the house was in good shape. Due diligence left, 7 days, gone. On the 8th day, I get an email from him saying that she's decided that she's going to terminate because she's not sure she wants to live in a townhouse. And my comment was, well, gee, that's a shame. Your due diligence is passed. She's lost her earnest money. Dead silence on the other side of the phone. We had 10 days. Said yes, and we countered with 7, and you guys signed off. He did not realize what the due diligence period was. Then he started begging for forgiveness. My client has every right to that earnest money, every single right to every single penny of it. He begged. Now, why was he begging? Because he screwed up. He screwed up. He missed that deadline, and he knew it was coming out of his pocket. So when I called my client and I said, they're going to terminate, here's why, doesn't make sense, and you were entitled to that earnest money. And they've asked for forgiveness. And they're like, well, it's not a big deal. You know, it's a sweet girl. I was like, oh, whoa, hold on. This has nothing to do with the girl. It has everything to do with the agent. And it is our job to help teach this agent a really important lesson. You are entitled to that money. So what are we going to do? So they agreed to only half of it. And it came out of that agent's pocket. And he wrote them a check for that earnest money. I don't want any of you writing a check ever. Okay. So that's how important due diligence period is in earnest money and protecting it. Okay. So I know that's a quick story and got us a little bit off track, but I just want you to reiterate how important it is. There is nothing worse than seeing an agent cutting a check because they made a mistake. Okay.
I don't want to be writing a $5,000 or $10,000 check. So I appreciate the story.
And there are agents that have had to do that. And that's not cool. Not cool at all. Okay. All right. So we have our due diligence period has passed and everybody has signed off and we are good on due diligence period. We now have another section that we have to worry about. And that is what?
Is that appraisal?
Yeah, it's financial contingency / appraisal. So based on the contract that you wrote, you have so many days to get the loan approval, and that includes the appraisal, except if it's FHA and VA, and the appraisal can go all the way to the end of closing.
Did you say 7 to 10 days?
No, it's whatever is written in.
Oh, whatever. Okay,
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, I was writing and I didn't hear what you said. So
Yeah.
You get
Okay.
one in 7 to 10 days, you are doing something right.
Now,
Yeah.
or you've got an amazing lender like a
Yeah.
Supreme that has already pre-qualified them and had them through underwriting. They can do 7 to 14 day financial contingencies. Jim's first one was that, right, Jim? Didn't we do, do we do
We-
14 days or 21?
We got the clear to close that morning, the morning of the closing.
But your financial contingency was how many days? It was 14 days, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was.
And they were able to get the loan approval in those 14 days.
Yeah, the loan approval was fine. It's just for whatever reason, the clear to close, they drug their feet hardcore on that.
That is normal for everybody. I mean, it takes up till the day of or the day before to get all of the final stuff, because they do go through underwriting, 2 or 3 times before they close.
Well, they assured us that it would be there, but you get a little nervous when that 5 o'clock the day before, you get messages that it's still not there. And then it's
If it was
10:30 the next
anybody,
morning.
if it was anybody that you had never worked with before, I would be very nervous. But with Supreme, I don't worry. If they say it's going to be done, it's going to be done. I've never not had that in the 9 years that I've been doing real estate. I've never not closed with Supreme on time.
Well, having to talk the other agent off of the ledge, he was freaking out a little bit,
Yeah, they
but
know better. They know how it is. All right. So
Can I-
during
can I ask-
yes,
can
go
I
ahead.
ask-
Bree.
So the appraisal and financial contingency, when the time frame, how is that decided? You said 14 to 21 days is kind of like the normal, or
21 is fairly common.
okay.
If it is a credit union or a big box, you're looking at anywhere from 30 to 45 days. So really that number that you've put in your financial contingency
Mhm.
depends on your conversation with the lender and what they can get done.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
I don't
then-
want to set expectations that they can't meet.
No. That I just needed to know where to actually come up with that number, and that's
Yeah.
where you would talk to the lender. Okay.
Talk to the lender. Okay.
Yeah, and if you've got 12 offers on something, then they're gonna look, this one's 45-day contingency, this one's 14-day contingency. That's that's gonna be a huge deal.
It is, it matters. And that's why having a conversation with them and saying, hey, we're in multiple offers. What can you do on your lending side to drive this so that I can make this look better? Okay. This is a work, let's work together to make this nice. All right.
Mhm.
So you have during that time to get your appraisal, let's say it's conventional loan, to get your loan in, your appraisal in and all of the documents locked in so that they've gotten their approval. And it's always going to be a conditional approval based on final numbers. Okay. You need to extend that if it's going to take longer. I'll give you a good example. Just happened with me this weekend. Our financial contingency was up on Sunday. Appraisal didn't happen until Monday because the appraiser drug us. I won't even go into details. Anyway, so I had to do an extension on that for another week in order to cover us while we got the appraisal in there. Otherwise, if the appraisal came back low
Mhm.
and we were out of our financial contingency and our appraisal contingency, what does that do for our client?
You're gotta come up with a bunch of money at closing.
Exactly, because I have no way to negotiate. They don't have to accept it. They don't have to drop price. And if we terminate, my client's losing their money because we're
What-
out of financial contingency.
How is that? Do you just automatically have that ability to extend the financial contingency?
It's not automatic. You need everybody to sign off on it.
Where is that in the contract? Is that special steps or is that actually in the
You
contract?
have to write a special amendment
Okay.
to extend. it.
So, okay, so your financial contingency was already up, but then your appraisal wasn't in. So when you extended, are you extending both?
Yes.
You are, okay.
It
So
gives us
that
the-
protects the earnest money,
It protects the earnest money, which is
Okay.
your job, is to protect that earnest money, right?
right?
So should
Okay.
that be a normal thing that you have in the special steps on, well, I mean, every contract? You know, the ability to extend 7 days. I mean, how do you word that?
We just did a document that all parties agree and acknowledge that the financial contingency / appraisal shall be extended until December 14th.
I mean, on the original contract, you said you don't automatically have that ability.
No, it's just you put a specific number of days and you try to get it done in that time frame.
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't happen often, but with everything with COVID, everybody's a little bit slower. I'm giving this guy grace. I don't think that's the case, but I'll give him the grace and say that's why he's taken so long. But there's so many houses that are being sold right now that they're really buried right now. Okay. All right. Yes.
Can I ask a question really quick? Is there a handbook or a book or a place online that we can find where wording that we can use in writing steps, writing the wording that we need to use? If we can't find anything, if we can't think of anything, is there somewhere we can go just to find those words?
You
that we
are
want
not,
to-
Amy, you are not encouraged to write your own steps. I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
Especially the lengthy ones. Now, a quick one that says all parties agree and acknowledge that, blah, 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 you could get away with. But if you start writing, you're not a lawyer and neither am I. So we have to be really careful. There are a bunch of steps that are already pre-written by the lawyers on Georgia Association of Realtors forms, and they've got them all listed. And I think you can pull it up. I used to be able to pull it up on Dotloop very easily, and you could search through them. I need to find out in DocuSign where those are so that we can, so I'm going to put my note to myself for those special steps, and we'll find out and let everybody know. Okay.
Okay.
Because they're written out. I mean, there's ones on extending, on escalations, on termite, on a bunch of different scenarios.
Mhm.
And we all would prefer you to use those that are already pre-written. Okay.
Right,
So we'll
exactly.
find out where those are.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I would
another
probably just, oh, sorry, go ahead.
another thing is I know there's I know there's a list of all the contracts in Dotloop, and I'm not hooked up with Dotloop yet. I'm with DocuSign, and I've honestly
No,
not used DocuSign in over 10 years, or over not 10 years, but 8 years. But it's been a long time. And so my question is there a place in DocuSign where it has the list of everything? I just
if
couldn't
you just
find it the
type
other day.
in the, yeah, it's a form, and I don't have my.
Like a
If you go for right now, for 2020, if you go into your agent success plan that I sent to you guys from our very first visit, you go to the very last tab, which is contract. Under there is a 2021 GAR list of forms. And you can
okay.
print that out. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So where are we? We're in our financial contingency. So let's say that appraisal comes back low. What are our choices?
Abort.
That is one.
Renegotiate.
Yep. What else? And that renegotiation could include what?
Everything. You're creating a whole new contract at that point, right?
No. Nope. You're just amending the price. So you've either got, the seller is either going to drop the price to the appraisal price. The buyer's going to come up with the difference. They come up to a happy medium somewhere in the middle or somewhere in between. And that might mean renegotiating on closing costs, FYI, or you terminate. So there's 4 options.
Can I
You
ask
also
you,
have the option, a 5th option is also to challenge the appraisal.
How often does that work? I hear that's barking up the wrong tree.
Not necessarily. It depends on how bad, how off it was. It depends on the comps that they used. It depends on if you have other comps that they did not use that are valid. If they did a desktop underwriting and they didn't, or a desktop appraisal and they didn't actually go see the property, and that's happening a lot because they're so busy. So there are options where you can challenge it, or if it's just a lousy appraiser and they've got a bad rap, they can request a whole new one. The lender can. So there are options there.
That option is only available on a conventional loan, right?
No, it's available on any, but it's probably easier on a conventional than it is on a VA or an FHA. And by the way, once an appraisal is done on a house on an FHA, how long does it stay with that property?
6 months.
It's a long time. I think it's at least 3 to 6 months. Yeah, it's a long time. So if you were to get another contract, they'd have to use that appraisal, which really stinks. Okay. All right. Now, in the meantime, all the stuff that's going on is the lender needs to be contacted to make sure that they're on track. The homeowner needs to make sure that they're filling, I mean, the buyer needs to fill out their buyer information sheet. They need to set up their utilities and their insurance. Now they're doing this, but you're making sure that they're doing this. All of the documents need to continue to be sent to the lawyer and to the lender. You've got what else have you
Title.
got? Huh?
Title.
The lawyer is doing all their title searches and all the HOA information. There's a lot of moving parts. Think of it like a swan swimming on the top of the water, but underneath their feet are just going crazy. And that's what's happening behind the scenes between you and the lender and the attorney. That's all the craziness that's going on. Okay. Now, let's say it gets through appraisal and it's fine. Now what happens? So your client is going to be, they've gotten their approval and they need to get ready for closing. So they need to set up their utilities and their insurance, make sure that that's done. They're going to get 3 days before closing, at a minimum 3 days before closing, they're going to get a CD. It's a closing document. And it outlines what are all of their fees and expenses for this closing. If they have not received it before 3 days prior to close, the closing has to be delayed. It is a requirement, a law, that the lender has to get it in their hands at least 3 days prior. Okay. And that's between the attorney, not the attorney, between the lender and the buyer. Okay. Then once the buyer says, yeah, this looks good, and they've signed off on it, then they continue to move again. Your job is to schedule. If you've asked for any repairs to be done, you're going to want to make sure that those repairs are completed at least 2 to 3 days before closing. Because what happens if they didn't do it right? You need a little bit of time to make sure that it's done correctly, right? So you're going to schedule a walkthrough to confirm, and you're going to want to get paid receipts of all of the work that's been done. You and your client will want to do a walkthrough to check the work to make sure it's done correctly. And then you're going to want to schedule a final walkthrough the day of closing. And I've mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Don't pass up the opportunity to put your eyes on the property, even if you're going out of your way, one last time. Because I know of too many people that were on their way to closing or right after closing, and the people came in and a water heater had burst or a pipe had burst and the place was flooded. So you need to see that it is in good shape before the closing. Okay?
And offer to grab the keys and bring them to close.
Makes it
Like that.
really easy for the listing agent because they don't have to swing by before, right?
Yep.
You
All they
also
gotta do is come
want to
pick up
pick
their
up from the office your earnest check. Now you have two options. You're going to pick up the earnest check and take it with you to closing, or you can just say, I'm not picking the earnest check up because the check will be made out to Quan, to KW, Keller Williams Atlanta North. They will deduct whatever we're holding in earnest from the total commissions if you don't have an earnest check with you. Okay. Now, if you've ordered a home, if there was a home warranty, you need to order the home warranty and send that receipt to the closing attorney. Also, like a clear termite letter, if you were responsible for getting a clear termite letter, it's making sure that you've got it and that everybody's got a copy of it. And then at closing, you're bringing the earnest check possibly and the receipt for the home warranty. And we talked about what to do at close later on. Then after closing, you have to turn in the check to the office, scan the settlement statement that has been given to you, upload that into your command, and then you need to go on FMLS and Georgia LMS both and post that these items, that these properties were closed. And on FMLS, there's an actual form, I think it's called 118, that you have to complete and turn in, and then they will physically post it for you. You don't get to do it yourself. Georgia MLS is less stringent. I'm sure I've forgotten something. There's a whole bunch more stuff that I'm sure I have forgotten. Okay. Now on the listing side, you are responsible for basically the same things, except the deadlines are not as important to you as they are to the buyer, because you're not worried about protecting somebody's earnest money. Your main concern is the closing date, making sure that you're going to be able to close on time. Making sure that your client is got all their movers set up, they've got their utilities turned off, their insurance ready to cancel on the day of, or basically the next day, right? That their seller information sheet is there, that all the information from the HOA is correct. Otherwise, they're going to be paying extra money on that. Reviewing the settlement statement before the closing, both sides are going to do that to make sure all the numbers are correct. And what I didn't mention is there's a lot of minutia that happens between a closing. That's the stuff that'll get to you. It's the little stuff. You spend a lot of time and effort on things that either matter a lot or don't matter at all, but end up getting in the way. And it varies from contract to contract, but it's the minutia that'll drive you crazy. All the little bitty stuff. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about leverage and why I believe so strongly in it. When I first joined the office, and got my license in real estate, my daughter, Amanda, said, you're going to use contract to close. And I said, what is that? And she said, well, they'll take care of all the paperwork so that you can focus on making more money. I said, well, that sounds good, but I need to know how to do this. I need to know all the steps. And she said, no, you don't. You don't have to know all of that. They're going to take care of all that for you. All you're responsible for is negotiating the amendment to address concerns and the appraisal. Those are the two big things. And then show up for closing. They take care of all the other paperwork. You're paying somebody minimum wage to do the paperwork. Okay. And then I watched, and Jim has watched all the stuff that they do in between, and it's worth every single penny. Wouldn't you agree, Jim?
Paid more.
Yep.
I mean, it's
Okay.
like $400, and God, they probably logged 40 or 50 hours behind the scene.
Exactly.
I know because I'm getting text messages at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting text messages at 7 o'clock at night.
That's right.
Just, emails letting me know that this is done, emails, just communicating with all parties. Like it's
It's nauseating the amount of communication that is that's important and that they do. Okay. That we wouldn't have a clue what to do, or more importantly, that would just takes up so much time while you're dealing with the minutia, the amendment stress concerns, and the appraisal stuff, right? There's plenty for you to do without having to deal with that.
keeping up with the who's who would drive me nuts, because like the listing agent had their own contract to close person. You've got the lender, you've got the attorneys, it's absurd.
You've got the pro closer, you've got there's a bunch of different people, and keeping who is who straight is tough for sure. So a couple of really great things about using contract to close. You are still responsible for this contract, but they are doing all the paperwork for you behind the scenes. They copy you on everything so that you see what's going on. You're still negotiating. You're still pulled in for important things, but all of the little stuff they do. If your deal is terminated, you pay them nothing. So all that work, it could have been up to close and suddenly it terminates, you pay them nothing. So they are very vested in making sure that this thing closes for you, okay? Because that's the only way they get paid. In addition to that, because you're using a contract to close, who knows what the heck they are doing, you are paid at close, right, Jim?
Yep, go straight to the bank right after close. You don't have
That's
to
right.
wait
So
till
at the
Quantum writes you
closing,
a check.
you get a check handed to you in your name or your company name. And you don't have to wait to turn it into the office, have them process it, and then wait for it to show up in your mailbox. You actually get a check that you can deposit that day. So it's a blessing, a very big blessing, okay? You cannot get pay at close if you're doing it on your own for at least a couple of years until they know that you know what you're doing. So they take care of the commission stuff that I told you about, uploading everything into Command that I told you about, all of the paperwork, all the communication. They do all of that behind the scenes so that you can focus on negotiating the contract, amendment to address concerns, appraisal issues if you have them, and more importantly, going and getting more business. So you can get a $9,000 piece of business, another one, and pay $400. Make sense?
There's cheaper ones out there
Absolutely.
too. I mean,
There
I
are
don't,
cheaper ones out there. There's cheaper ones out there.
but I like the fact that the lady I was working with, her name's Laura McCollum. She's a former real estate agent. She
Yep.
knows her stuff. So, I can ask. I sent her way more information than she asked for. And she was letting me know, hey, thanks for sending me this. I don't need it, but, I'd rather have too much than not enough.
That's right.
So she was helping coach me along the way. She knows what she's doing.
When I had to do the extension, she contacted me and said, hey, do you want me to, we need the extension. Do you want me to go ahead and do it? And I said, yes, please. So she wrote up the extension on the financial contingency and sent it over for everybody to get signed.
Do you use Laura too?
Laura is mine as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. Okay. So those are some options that you have. So if you're going to use a contract to close, then the way that you do it is as soon as you go binding, you go to theclosingco.com and you fill out a form, whether it's for the seller or for the buyer, and give them all the information that they're requesting, and boom, you're done. And then they'll start taking care of it. Now you're still responsible for getting there at the inspector. Well, let's put it this way. They can schedule an inspector for you. I'm a control freak and I want that done as quickly as possible. So I go ahead and schedule the appraisal, the inspectors. I just don't want to wait for them to get to it. That's my 2 cents. Okay. All right. Who has questions about contract to close?
So I have a question. So you talked about, the due diligence dates and stuff like that. They're paying attention to that and they're making sure that those things.
They send
Absolutely.
them
In fact,
straight
they,
to your calendar where
Yeah,
it'll
they-
pop up on your phone. I'm
Yep.
sorry, go ahead, Julianne.
no, exactly right, Jim. They put them on your calendar so that you know that they are there and they are
Okay.
very aware of it.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was creepy as hell when stuff started popping up. I'm like, I didn't put that there.
Mhm. They don't want you to miss a deadline.
Okay.
Because
Oh,
if you
shoot.
do and something happens, they don't get paid either, right? So I mean, they want to make sure that they get paid and that you get paid.
Yeah, you see she's on our team meetings a lot. It's Kim with the closing
Kim Smith,
company.
Yeah. Mhm.
Kim Smith. Yeah, she's very vested in the company. I'm, sure a lot of agents use her. Like I said, she's not the cheapest, but she knows how the company works. They can log straight into command. Everything that she's telling you to upload to command, Laura does that for me. From like once we send out the proposal through command, I literally did not log on to that account again. She did everything step by step by step. I never touched it again.
Yep.
So you don't have to know everything about how to work command if you got somebody that knows how to work it on the back end. Like I said, that was $400 for a $10,000 commission check.
Yeah. To me, that sounds like it's very worth it.
It's worth every penny. It is a good business decision. And you know that I'm all about you guys thinking like a business owner, right?
Mhm.
It's a no-brainer.
Mhm.
And it's great practice because I use contract to close on everything except for, I think I've done 2 deals by myself all the way through. And they were cash deals. And it was between Christmas and New Year's. And they were closing really fast and they're closed during Christmas and New Year's. So I couldn't use them. So I didn't have a choice. I had to do it on my own.
Yeah, I got that email.
Yeah.
Like for the week Christmas to New Year's, they're not
Not there. So trial by fire. So I did it myself. I do it for almost everything except for new construction, which there's not a lot for you to do because the other agent does almost everything, right? The contractor's agent and some cash deals because there's not a lot of communication that needs to happen.
Mhm.
But for everything else, I would definitely do it. I have done it for every single one. And when you do it, as you start adding it up, it can add up. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest expenses that you're going to have on your business budget is your contract to close. Here's the good news. You're paying an assistant. You're
Mhm.
getting comfortable paying a part-time assistant. So the bigger that you get in your business career and you start saying, I've got to have an assistant, you've already conditioned yourself to be paying an assistant.
Mhm.
So adding a half or a quarter salary in order to get somebody on board for you full-time is not a big deal, rather than going from 0 to full, a full-time person.
Mhm.
It really helps you with that transition as you're growing.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just write it off. It's a couple percent coming out of every closing. I mean,
Yeah,
in all honesty, that's
It's a cost of
Julianne had to
sale.
convince me because I was literally arguing with her. It's like, look, I'm not paying somebody to do something. I don't have any other deals going on. There's no reason why I can't handle this. And she's like, think about this. And she starts listing off all the stuff you got to do. I'm like, okay, I trust you. Go for it. Tell me what to do. So yeah, that would have drove me insane.
It's $9,000 new and another deal versus saving $400. What makes the best business decision?
Mhm.
It's a no-brainer. Okay.
My labor's worth more than $10 an hour.
Amen.
And that's realistically about what you end up paying for somebody that is way more qualified than I am to do the job.
Absolutely. Does that mean that you don't know what's going on between contract to close? No,
Oh,
or
God,
I
no.
wouldn't have had this class, right? I want you to understand what's going on and what your responsibilities are, but you don't need to be doing all that paperwork. Okay.
Well, it's good to be able to explain it to your client. It's like, all right, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be communicating, with me and with your contract to close person. you know,
Yep.
like, and you just let them know, look, this is my assistant. They're good at what they do. She's going to make sure all the documents are turned in. You know, she'll contact you directly.
Yep.
So she's sending emails and copying, you know, everybody involved. You know, it'll be, she'll contact the contract to close person for the other agent, the lawyers, the lease or the lenders,
Yep.
and she'll copy you on virtually every email that she sends out. I get a copy of it. So I know what's going on behind the scenes, even though I'm not directly involved in it. You know, if I've got something that, you know, it's like, all right, I've actually got that document, I'll send it to you. You know, I can, you know, text her, chime in, kind of let her know and help
Mhm.
make it easier.
Yep.
But
So beautiful
easy.
thing, even as newer agents, by using a contract to close, you now have a team,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it shows that you are a business owner and you're not
Mhm.
just a fly by night kind of person.
Right.
So there's a lot of value in doing it. Now, what was your biggest takeaway for today, or an aha that you didn't know about or hadn't thought about before on our process that we have to go through?
For me, mostly it was just like the details. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I know all this, like every bit of that I've at least been exposed to and am aware of it, but yeah, just reiterating it. You know, I didn't know about the midnight deadline on the due diligence. Um, I mean, little things.
Okay. How about for you, Zoya?
I didn't know about contract to close. It was really helpful to know that there are people who can take care of small things for you, and also this due diligence thing. That this is a very important thing to know how many days you have to
Yes.
meet the deadline.
You've got to stay on top of those days for sure. You can't let them slip by.
You know,
How about for
Zoya,
you?
once you've done one, your confidence will be through the roof.
Yeah,
Like-
and that's
like
when you
it-
have to be
seriously.
careful. And that's when you have to be careful, because then you get lazy. And
Mhm.
it's real easy to make mistakes. I think your first one, you're so afraid you're going to screw up, right?
Yeah.
But after you've been doing it a while, you're like, I got this. And you're juggling so many, it's really easy to lose track and miss a deadline, right? So Regina said, giving up control to contract to close, you will be liberated. And I am a control freak. So for me to give that up was huge. And once I gave it up and I saw how amazing it was, you'll never go back, right?
What I meant to say was, by giving up control, you gain control. I have never used anyone. I've always done everything myself. And you do get trapped in the minutia, but I do think that I am going to, it's Kim Smith's company you're talking about, right?
Yes.
You can use Kim
Yeah.
Smith. Dottie Dow does it. Loree Moore is a new one in our office. She has a company and she was the MCA at Cityside, so she's good too. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that do it.
Well, I think I'm going to bite the bullet, because I've always wanted to be on top of things and know it. And I've never had a failed closing, but I think it's time that I do it. And listening to you convinced me this morning. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes,
Yeah, you're
take
definitely
control
still
back
on top
your
of
time.
things.
I'm
you-
sorry, what?
Go ahead, Julianne. I'm sorry.
No, go
I didn't
ahead.
mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
You're definitely still on top of things, because you're getting copied every time something gets done. You know, if you're waiting on the title to come in, you're getting an update. You know, I don't think there was 2 consecutive days that went by that I didn't see an email come across relating to it. You know, sometimes
Thank
you just
you.
have a few days where there's nothing really going on. You know, you're just in a holding pattern. But she'd send it out like, all right, and just reiterate the deadlines for these things. Like I was brand new, first deal. You know, I mean, I've never done real estate. I got my license 3 or 4 months ago, so I had no idea what I was doing. You know, and Julianne helped me write the contract. You know, well, by help me, she, you know, kind of had to take control of it because we were against a deadline. But you know, we're on a Zoom call where I'm following every mouse click she had. It was, you know, super I was nervous as hell. You know, what am I going to do? I don't know how to do this crap. I just got my license. And then she hooks me up with Laura, and Laura just, you know, she put me at ease real quick when she told me she used to be a real estate agent and she actually worked for Keller Williams. And, you know, she's familiar with command and she helps a lot of other agents in the office, and, you know, and she kept me updated every step of the way. So I'm definitely an advocate for it. You know, you only know what you know, but I was very comfortable through the whole process.
That's good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Lori, how about for you? What's your biggest aha?
It was just the all the details, like and kind of like really getting a good picture on due diligence and the appraisal and financial contingency, where to get that information, and just a lot of the little details that come under everything, like, you know, all the little stuff that you have to do. It just gave me a better picture and a better flow of what I have to have in mind and what I need to educate my client with. So
Sounds good. So I want to leave you with one last thought. I'm jumping off here and headed back to the ALC, the Agent Leadership Council retreat that we're doing to gear up for next year. As you look at your ALC for this next year, 99% of them use a contract to close person, because they know that in order for them to do big business, they need that leverage so that they can focus on what they're supposed to do. You're going to see a lot of agents in our office that are there all the time. Every time you see them, they're on the computer. They're always working. They're busy. They're busy doing all the paperwork crap that somebody else ought to be doing, so that they're avoiding doing what they know they're supposed to do, and that's generating more business. So don't fall behind. In my opinion, it's a crutch. So choose to take control over your business and build a big business, and allow yourself to have leverage so that you can do it right. Okay, you guys?
yeah,
Awesome.
I like the sound of that. I think that's very worth it. I mean, I've heard you talk about it a couple times and I'm pretty sold on it.
Good. Awesome.
You can hire somebody for $15 an hour to work 40 hours a week for you, and then they get paid regardless. Or you can pay somebody $400 to make sure this thing goes to close, and if it falls through, you pay them nothing.
Yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
It is a no-brainer. You got it. All right, you guys, make sure you have a great day. Tomorrow at our PC resource, bring your personal budgets for 2021. We're going to go through your business budgets and identify exactly how much you should be planning for, and then figuring out exactly how hard you need to work and what you need to do for 2021 to make your life happen. Okay.
I got too many damn
Thank you
bills,
so much.
Julianne. I just, you know,
Awesome. That sounds good.
yeah, I did it.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.